Something I hear a lot when I'm in classes is, I'd love to practice at home, but I just don't have the space. Well, now you're kind of stuck, aren't you? So let's have a look at how we can make the best of practicing at home. I'll use a little bit of footage that I took just on my phone from around our own house. So we're really blessed to have the great good fortune to be in a lovely house with a good deal of space, but there's lots of small spaces within it. So if you're living in just a little flat, you can still do the things that I'm showing you for the most part. So the first thing is, be sure to eat well. You're probably expecting an exercise or something like that. Well, you're not getting out so much, and maybe you're in watching TV all day, and those Doritos are pretty impressive, and you'd quite like to have some, and maybe a bar of chocolate. In 2 weeks' time, you're going to be really big, and that's not going to help your health. So I actually have an app on my phone that helps me to count the calories. I put in what I've eaten, and then it tells me how many calories there are, and I go, what? That can't be right. But it keeps a good track for me, and so remember, this is the first thing. Be careful with your meals, eat proper meals. Then, fresh air. If you're able to get outside, get outside. Now, we have a beautiful garden, and at the moment, as you can see, it's a bit of a mess. That's because at Easter we usually spend a week just putting everything straight, getting it into spring and ready for summer. Haven't quite got to Easter yet, so it still needs a bit of work, but I think I'll get out as soon as I see a decent day, and I will mow the lawn, because that's going to give me plenty of space. Also give me time to get out and do some Qigong and a bit of Tai Chi in the garden, practice some of my Taekwondo patterns and Ensudo patterns, but also I'll be able to do some swords in the garden. So if my neighbours are watching, don't worry, it's just me practicing. The good thing about the garden is I can do this, and my hands don't disappear, which they probably did when I showed you that. My hands don't disappear because I'm going up high above my head, and I don't have to strike any ceiling if I'm in the garden. If you can't get out, or you can't get in the garden, open the windows and let some air in for an hour every day if you possibly can, because you need some fresh air. Otherwise all that stale air is building up, and you're not getting so much oxygen in. So let's take care of those lungs, people. Now, how do you exercise? You'd be surprised the opportunities that there are inside the house. A lot of people talk about the kitchen. We actually have a decent amount of space in the kitchen, but Grandma's very often in there, and if I'm doing one of those famous jump spinning kicks that I'm known for, Grandma might end a bit crushed. So I'm not showing you the kitchen, but for many people the kitchen's a good place. Make a cup of tea, the kettle's boiling, you have a couple of minutes to do some nice exercises, and you can do that. Bit of stretching, bit of Qigong, bit of remembering some movements that you do if you're doing self-defense art. Then, if you look at our dining room, we call the dining room Grandma's racetrack, because she can go round the table and round the table, and she does that every day, and it's a good way of getting some space to walk. I remember my own grandmother being told by the district nurse, of course you have room to walk around. Even if you can't get out, you can just walk around the furniture round and round. So Grandma's racetrack. And the stairs, oh my goodness, we call the stairs Mrs. Hall's gym. If you know her, you'll understand why. The stairs can be very useful. Be careful that you don't trip. If you are quite frail, just going up a few steps and down a few steps is a really good exercise for you. If you're really fit, you might want to run up the stairs. When I worked in London, and I was just at the time that the LCTKD was being set up, I used to run up the stairs instead of taking the lift to my office. How about that? And the day job that I used to have. And you're probably thinking that's not so smart until I tell you that the office was on the 18th floor. Yes, don't think I'd fancy it these days, but I did it then, and it's a good thing. So, up and down the stairs, good exercise. Be careful you're not crashing. Then, into our sitting room, and in this room, this is actually the room where I trained for my first black belt grading. So, you're probably thinking, how did you do it with all these plants? Of course, the plants weren't there, but look how I'm measuring out the space. It's just about that space, really. That space, just a few feet either way. I could do exercise sets, I could do press-ups and sit-ups and jumping jacks and whatever. I could practice my techniques, I could do kicks, and I did lots of shadow sparring. That's when you're practicing your fighting with nobody else there, and I battered those curtains on a regular basis every day, those poor curtains. But I managed all within a small space. It's okay. People worry, how am I going to do something like a form or a pattern or a kata? I'd like you to do the sofa shuffle. So there's two ways of doing it, and here they are. The first one is you have to imagine a sofa, because it's terrible carrying a sofa as a prop into the studio. But I don't have a sofa, but imagine one. It's just here. And I'm doing a nice move and I'm coming to the sofa. So I can do the sofa shuffle. And then I've got space to do another move and I can do the sofa shuffle. So I can do it like that. If you want to do another way, there's a second way you can do the sofa shuffle. So you've got to understand all the alternatives for your sofa shuffle. Here am I, and I'm at the sofa. But instead of going here, shuffle, what I'm going to do is I'm going to, from this spot, previous position here. So I'm actually going to change feet. So instead of stepping here and then shuffling back, I'm just going to go step back, step forward. So I'm in the same place. Next move, step back, step forward. So I'm putting in a little backward step every time to give myself the space to work with the sofa. I did this. I do it. It's fine. It works. So step back, step forward. So here's the moves. This is brush, knee and push. Tai Chi people will know. Brush, knee and push. Going to do another one. Step back, brush, knee and push. You'll see I've not got any nearer the imaginary sofa and I'm still in the space. So you can do this. You can do this. So we've looked at the garden and the dining room and talked about the kitchen and looked at the sitting room and the stairs. Also upstairs, doorways if you can. This doorway is a doorway that Mr. Gareth and Hall and Mr. Drew Hall hung their bob in. Bob means something like body opponent, something like that. I wish I could remember it now. Anyway, it's like a dummy of a person, which their mum made them. And she hung it up in the doorway and they just bashed it. It's great work, and I believe you can find a video about that or some written up papers about that soon. Also, these days, Mr. Drew Hall's pull-up bar in a doorway. If you've got one of these or something similar, all you need is a doorway. You don't need anything else. So, doorways, special rooms. Take the time. Every day, take the time. Make a time. Choose a place. Make it a routine. I have my morning meditation. Maybe I'll do some standing post Qigong instead of meditating in Sesa, which I normally do. and later in the day I'll do some Tai Chi, and I'll follow that with some Taekwondo patterns, normally Taekwondo patterns. And then later in the day I'll do some swords work. You have to be careful about the inside space because you might lose all your light fittings, but swords people, some advice on that is coming to you too. So if you want to do it even more regularly and get into the right habit, as well as choosing a time, put your clothes on. I don't mean you're wandering around with no clothes on. I mean put some clothes on like you're going to class, because you are. You are. So I hope these tips are useful to you. You can always, every day, from when our online stuff is in place, you can go every day, you can look at your session or even the session of one of the other arts if you've got that, and you can practice through that. It helps you to have something to work from and some learning to do. So good luck with it. Stay healthy, keep safe.